talk to you. Come on now, we open the door. What?
That's why we're here, Mr. Chafee. To see that nothing happens to you that isn't right.
Yes, sir, and I'm much obliged. You're going to let me out of here, ain't you, Mr. President?
A man is dead. And apparently, you killed him.
But I didn't mean to kill him. No, I didn't want to kill nobody. No, not even when he come at me the way he did. Now, I wasn't looking to kill him. Now, don't that have nothing to do with it?
It has a lot to do with it. The law recognizes the right of anyone to defend himself against attack.
Now, well, there you are. That's all I did. Now, I guess they can't expect a man to stand around with his hands in his breeches while some wild man coming at him with a knife in his hand, can they?
What did you do when you saw that he was hurt?
Well, I guess I just walked back to my own room.
Well, why didn't you call for help? Call the police.
Police?
Yes. After all, you'd been attacked. A man was hurt. Killed, actually. Seems to me the natural thing would be to want to tell your story to the authorities.
Oh, I guess I just got flustered. You ever hunt jackrabbits at night?
No.
You get them in your headlights, you know, and there's no telling what they're gonna do, run or sit. I guess I must have been just about as mixed up as a darn old jackrabbit, huh?
But you didn't run away, did you?
Oh, no, sir, I did not.
Oh, Mr. Chafee, I didn't ask you before, why were you trying to sleep at 3:30 in the afternoon?
Oh, it's just sleepy, I guess.
You're not employed?
No, I'm not right now. No, I had a job in an underwear factory up in Buffalo.
You're not from Buffalo originally, right?
Buffalo? No, I'm from Texas, man. I left there about a year ago. And I don't know why, neither. And if I ever get back there, I'm going to dig me a hole, man. I mean, I am not going to move.
Well, Mr. Chafee, if the story you told us this afternoon is the whole story, I think you'll be seeing Texas again soon.
You really mean that? Lordy, Mr. Preston, I hope you're right. I really hope you're right.
I might be able to get you out on bail if...
Oh, yeah. Bless you. Bless you both. But if it costs more than the price of a small beer, you just don't waste your time now.
Well, try not to worry too much.
Well, yeah, I'll try to do that. You know, I really appreciate what you two gentlemen are trying to do for me. Now, you take real good care of yourselves, I hear?
We will.
I told all that already to the cops.
Oh, it shouldn't make any difference if you tell me, too, should it?
Who did you say you was?
I'm an attorney. I represent Earl Chafee, and I want to find out what happened, see?
What happened? He got into a fight with Garcia and he killed him. That's what happened.
Well, I want to know if you knew anything about Jose Garcia. See, where he came from, what he did, how long had he been here?
About a week, maybe.
Well, what about Earl Chafee?
What about him?
How long had he been registered with you?
About the same.
You mean they both came the same day?
Chafee comes the 20th. Garcia the 21st.
Incidentally, did you ever get any complaints about Garcia playing his radio too loudly?
Who told you he had a radio?
Well, didn't he?
He didn't have no radio.
But why is the federal government interested in Earl Chafee?
Any reason why it shouldn't?
Well, only that he's the common man writ small.
What does the name Ramon Gamboa mean to you?
He's Cuban.
Yeah.
The gray eminence behind Castro. Sort of calls the shots or something like that. Whatever his role is, we know they'd be hurt if they didn't have him.
Well, help me out, Mr. Malloy. How did Ramon Gamboa get into this conversation?
That's the man Earl Chafee killed. Ramon Gamboa.
He killed Jose Garcia.
Garcia, Gamboa, same man. We figure he slipped across the border somewhere and made his way here.
Oh, that's incredible.
What's incredible about someone wanting to assassinate a top Cuban communist? Don't you think passions run high on this issue?
Well, it would be ridiculous to you if you'd ever talked to Earl Chafee.
That's what I want to do. Talk to Earl Chafee about this.
I'm sorry, not before I do.
Look, this is no whim on my part. This happens to be very important. Not only to the Justice Department either. The State Department's hot on this too. And I might add, so is the White House.
Well, there's nobody I'd rather cooperate with than the White House, provided it doesn't interfere with my client's interests. Now, that provision hasn't been satisfied, Mr. Malloy.
This isn't just a crime. Or just another barroom brawl. This can have repercussions all over the world. Oh, I mean, it will.
All right, let's suppose for a moment that this really was a political assassination. What do you want from Chafee?
Well, to begin with, we want to know which group he's working for. There's so many of these Cuban expatriate outfits, obviously we got to keep track of them. Know what they're up to all the time.
All right, what else?
Maybe he's just a trigger man. But if he's not, we want to know how his people picked up Gamboa's trail. You know, how their intelligence works. And ideally, we'd like to be let in on anything else he's got that could help us, including his contact people here in New York.
Well, Mr. Malloy, I'm sorry, but I don't see how you can be so sure that Chafee killed Gamboa for political reasons.
Can you think of any other reason why a man like Gamboa would get himself killed?
I must admit, I find it hard to believe the legendary Ramon Gamboa could survive the Spanish Civil War, the Russian front, and the Sierra Maestra, be killed by a man who asked him to turn his radio down.
Yeah, especially since he didn't have one.
Miss Preston. Howdy, Mr. Preston. Oh, mighty nice of you to come and see me now. I bet you're plenty busy, too. Come on in.
Why didn't you tell us you'd raise money for bail?
No, we're just getting ready to do that when you knocked on the door. I was going to give you a call. Now, come on, sit down.
Where did you get the money?
All I know is some newspaper come up with it.
What do you have to do for it, Earl?
Nothing. They just said, would you wait in your room and talk to one of our reporters when he comes? Well, ain't nothing wrong with that, is there?
There could be if you talk too much.
Well, then I sure won't.
The safest thing would be not to talk to reporters at all. They're not easy to say no to once they get started.
Yeah, well, see, I don't rightly see I can do that now, you know, them being so nice to me and all.
Well, then don't talk to any of them unless one of us is present. And then be very careful what you do say. Don't worry about being a nice guy when your life is at stake. Just stick to the story you told us. That is the way it happened, isn't it?
Of course.
Oh, what is the name of that man you fought with?
I think they said his name was Jose Garcia, yeah.
His name was Gamboa.
Is that a fact?
Ramon Gamboa.
Oh, well, I guess I got it all mixed up somewhere. You know, that's funny, too, because, you know, down in Texas, we got a whole mess of them pepper-eater names, and it's not all like they was all that unfamiliar to me.
Wait a minute, are you saying that you never heard of Ramon Gamboa, is that it?
No, not that I know of.
Mr. Chafee, you do know that a government hostile to the United States has been established in Cuba, and that many people think that Cuba is now a base for subversive activity in the Western Hemisphere? Don't you?
Well,
I wonder if you'd mind telling us how you feel about that.
you mean about Cuba?
I mean, do you think we're handling Castro properly?
Oh, well, I don't know. You know, they tell me he's loco. Now, there's no reason I have to suppose different. But as far as handling him... Now, how do you mean that? You mean the government?
Oh, come on, Mr. Chafee. You expect us to believe that you never heard of Ramon Gamboa up until now? And when you killed him, you hadn't the least idea of who he was? He's one of the top men of the Cuban Revolution.
Well, the good Lord love you, Mr. Preston. If I had the right to expect you to believe anything, I'd say yes. Well, what right do I have to expect anything from you fellas? You come up here all the way just out of the goodness of your own hearts and nothing to look forward to except a whole bunch of grief. And all I can do is tell you what happened and hope for the best.
You might just think about this for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite possible that in exchange for your cooperation, the prosecution might tend to be lenient.
Lenient?
Yes, we help them, they help us. It's done all the time.
Oh, now, hold on, Miss Preston. You said I didn't have nothing to worry about. Now, I had to protect myself now, didn't I? Now, he come at me at first, and I didn't use any more force than I had to. Now, that's self-defense, ain't it?
You may remember what I said was you had a good case if the story you told us was true.
Well, it is true.
Is all of it true?
On my honor,
Now, wait a minute, Burl. You said you went to Gamboa's room, right? To
Right.
turn down the radio.
Yes.
Well, now, that's kind of strange, because he didn't have one.
Well, now, I heard a radio playing down there, and it was
Was it
real loud.
Gamboa's room?
Well, I thought it was.
You thought so, but you're not quite sure, are you?
Well, now,
What else aren't you sure of? Are you sure somebody didn't pay you to follow Gamboa and then assassinate him?
Well, no. Yeah, I mean, yes, I'm sure I didn't know Gamboa, and I didn't want to fight with him.
Ken, do you think it's possible for a man to stand in front of a door and think a radio is playing within that room when in actuality it's playing in another room?
Well, I guess it's possible, but...
A man from the Justice Department in Washington would like to ask you some questions.
Really?
And you don't have to answer them. In fact, you don't even have to see him.
And you're not going to. Look, the less you talk, the better off you are.
Well, but why? I got nothing to hide, especially from my own government. Well, I'll just tell him what I told you fellas, huh?
They've already heard that story. So talking to you wouldn't do them any good, would it?
Oh. Well, yeah, I reckon.
And it might do you a great deal of harm if you happen to slip and say the wrong thing.
Okay, then, mum's the word, huh?
Thank you for letting me see you, Mr. Chafee. I know what a difficult time this must be for you.
Well, it's awful good of a newspaper lady like yourself to take all this notice in me now, isn't it?
Mr. Chafee, I think a lot of people are going to be taking notice of you from now on. So I wonder if you'd mind answering a few questions for me?
Well, no, ma'am, not at all. You just go right ahead. Sit down here. And just ask me anything you want to. Oh, you don't mind if I close the door?
Certainly not. To begin with, perhaps you tell me a few things about yourself. Where you come from, what you do, things like that.
Well, there really isn't all that much to tell. It seems I must be about as ordinary kind of fellow as there is.
I don't think so. I think you're a very extraordinary kind of fellow, as you put it. Let me be the judge of that. Are you married?
Yes, ma'am, I have a wife.
Where is she now?
Well, she's still upstate, I think.
You're originally from Texas, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am, I'm from Sweetwater. Yeah, I was bred there most of my life. And I spent 4 years in the Army. And, well, I guess that's about all.
What do you do for a living?
But, you know, ever since I was knee-high to a sidewinder, I always figured I was going to be a baseball player. You know, I used to throw rocks at tin cans and all like that. I did play a couple of years, too. I even tried out for the Browns in 1952. And after that, well, one thing and another. And I had an auto-body shop for a while. And I'm trained as a drill press operator.
Let me ask you something, Mr. Chafee. Do you date your political interest from any particular time or event?
Political?
Yes.
Well, we're all Democrats down where I come from, ma'am.
I'll start over again, if you don't mind, Mr. Chafee.
Good enough.
Have you ever done anything like this before?
Oh, no, ma'am. No, I haven't.
This may sound strange. Have you ever wanted to?
You mean kill somebody?
Oh, of course, nobody wants to take a life. But have you ever felt about somebody that he did so much harm that he didn't deserve to be alive? That the world would be a better place without that so-and-so?
Well, now, if I was going to be right down the line honest about it, I'd have to own up that there was this old boy in the army one time, and he used to be on my back just all the time. You know, he's one of them fast-talking New York boys. And, well, I did spend quite a few nights thinking about what I was going to do to him.
It isn't easy for you to talk about these things, is it, Mr. Chafee? You're probably a man who's more used to doing than talking. Am I right?
Yeah, I guess you could say that, ma'am.
I'd like to help you. Help you put into words some of the things you feel so deeply about.
Well, now, I guess that'd be all right. I told Mr. Preston, he's my lawyer, that I wouldn't talk about my case. But anything else, sure, I think that'd be all right.
Well, what do you think of this country, Mr. Chafee?
This here country?
America. How do you feel about it?
Well, I think it's a real fine place.
You'd probably do anything you could to protect it, wouldn't you?
Sure, you can count on that.
Do you think it's in danger?
Danger, ma'am?
Well, do you think that what we commonly know as the American way of life is threatened? That we stand a darn good chance of losing it?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I suppose you know that a great many people, some of them very important people, think that this country is facing the greatest danger in its history.
Oh, yeah, I guess I know that all right.
Are they right?
Well, I know they're a whole lot smarter than I am, that's for darn sure. See, I don't know too much about this political stuff.
I see. Well, if they think that this threat is immediate, that it's here, would you say that they're probably right?
Yes, ma'am, I suppose so.
And don't you wonder, with our country in such danger, why it doesn't do something about it? Why it allows itself to be pushed around? Don't you wonder about that?
No, ma'am, I really do wonder about that sometimes.
I'll wager you do, Mr. Chafee, and I'll wager you wonder how long America can survive and be eaten at little by little. Losing influence here, a traditional institution there. I wager you wonder how long before Uncle Sam makes a fist and says, that's enough.
I sure do.
And I'm sure that feeling the way you do and being the kind of person you are, you wonder how long you can wait for someone to do what has to be done. How long you can just sit by. It's like asking a man to sit in his parlor with his hands folded while robbers go through his house, isn't it?
Now, it really is, ain't it? Now, that's just about more than you can expect of any man, right?
Well, why don't you tell me about it? In your own words. What America means to you, who its enemies are, what we're doing about them, and most important, what our responsibility, yours and mine, is in protecting our country. Will you do that, sir?
Oh, sure. I'll try. Gee. You know, it's funny that I get ideas all the time I want to talk to people about, and it seems like I just haven't time getting anybody to listen. That was one of my troubles I had with my wife. That and her spending. You know, that woman could spend more money faster than anybody I ever saw. Well, anyway, it sure is a real nice change just to have somebody up and ask you what you think about something. Now, what was it you wanted me to tell you about? What the USA means to me and all like that. Well, now, to start off with, now, I want to make one thing real clear. As far as I'm concerned, I think this country is the greatest country in the whole world. Now, that's for openers.
That's pretty good for openers, Mr. Chafee. Go on.
Well, now, I think that about tells you how I stand.
Yes, it does. Now, perhaps you'll tell me what you feel is happening in this country you love so much.
Okay,
Is anybody trying to take it away from us?
Oh, you mean like them Russians?
What about the Russians? What are they up to?
Well, they're up to no good if you ask me.
I do ask you, and this no good they're up to, are they getting away with it?
I don't see nobody stomping on them.
Nobody, Mr. Chafee.
Well, maybe not exactly nobody.
We may not like the violence of Earl Chafee's act, but there's no way we can avoid a simple truth. If Khrushchev and company do what they promised, if they really bury us, it won't be Earl Chafee's fault. Some of the fault may be yours, and some of it may be mine, but none of it will be his. Earl Chafee is a man who loves his country, who saw its danger, and went out and did something about it. If that's a crime, he's guilty.
I think that explains what I'm after. You probably know Chafee better than anybody around here. So I wish you'd tell me everything you know about him, anything at all. You've got to admit there hasn't been anybody like him along in a long time. Not since John Brown. Matter of fact, Earl Chafee, his truth goes marching on.
Miss Brennan, do you know what you're saying when you write a piece like that?
I think so.
The most charitable thing I can say is I hope not. What you're saying is Chafee is a hero because he killed a communist.
I stand by what I said. Everybody talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. The same with the communists threaten America. Everybody clucks about it, but nobody does anything about it. Earl Chafee did something, and if that's a crime, he's guilty.
Of course it's a crime. Murder is always a crime.
Always? What about self-defense?
Well, obviously, under certain circumstances, it's not a crime to defend oneself.
But it is a crime to defend your country.
Of course not, if that's all that's involved. But if it means any man can go out and decide who's a communist and kill him, that's got to be wrong. Just think of the crimes that could be committed in the name of national defense. Why, I could kill you and make a pretty good case that by undermining our moral values, you were a threat to the nation.
You'd have a pretty difficult time convincing anybody of that. But the communist threat is a fact. It doesn't need any proof.
Oh, so what you're saying is, all right, fellas, come on, get your guns and go kill some communists.
I'm not sure that would be such a bad idea.
What about deciding who is a communist? Doesn't that need proof?
We've got ourselves so tied up with legalities that we don't stand a chance against an enemy that doesn't give a hoot in hell who it steps on.
Some of us think those legalities you're talking about are our only chance, because they're all what stand between us and them. Those rights of the individual, they make all the difference. Because if it wasn't for them, what would the fight be about?
That's Bleeding Heart theme song, Mr. Preston. I've known it for a long time, and it hasn't raised any goose flesh on me yet. Let's just agree to disagree. You help Chafee the way you want to, and I'll help him the way I want to. After all, we're both after the same thing.
We're not after the same thing, Miss Brennan. You're saying he's guilty.
I'm saying he's an American patriot.
All right, but that doesn't have anything to do with it.
Well, we'll see.
What you're implying is that guilt or innocence is a matter of public opinion. And you're in the process of forming that opinion in favor of Chafee, and I can't accept it. Guilt or innocence is a matter of fact. And the best system we have of determining facts is trial by jury, not trial by newspaper. Leave Chafee alone, Miss Brennan. I think he's innocent, and I think we'll prove it, if you leave him alone.
We bailed him out of jail, Mr. Preston, not you.
That doesn't make him your private property.
That's correct. He's public property. He's a national cause. And newspapers made him that way. So don't knock them, Counselor. Plenty of justice has prevailed only because newspapers did their job and aroused the public.
How do you feel about being the subject of worldwide attention?
Well, to tell you the real honest truth, it's a mighty sobering thought to know that you're being talked about in a foreign language. Now, I don't know why, but that one really kind of gets to me.
Mr. Chafee, if you get off, what do you think you'll do?
It's mighty funny you asking me that, because I've been giving a lot of thought to that very same question. But to tell it to you true, I don't really know exactly what I am going to do. But I can give you this for a fact. I'm not about to go running rabbits or baying at the moon. Now, the real important thing I've got to decide now is just what is the best way to get across to people what I've got to say.
You mean you're going to speak out to the public?
That's right, ma'am. That's what I mean.
Perhaps go into politics.
I mean you're going to hear a lot more from Earl Chafee. Politics. Yes, ma'am, that's not a half bad idea. See, that's about the only way I can get people together who feel the way that I do about things. You know, feel that it's time that old Uncle Sam doubled up his fist and said, that is enough. You are not getting any more. No, because we are going to take off our gloves and commence to do us a little bare knuckles fighting.
Oh, does that mean direct action against Cuba?
What do you mean by that, direct action?
Well, like what you did to Gamboa. Now, that was direct action.
Well, I guess there's no denying that, is there?
Would you describe yourself as a modern Brutus?
Pardon?
He was an assassin who went on to enjoy some success in politics.
Oh, well, I ain't successful yet. But by golly, you just give me a little time and
Well, I wonder if you'll tell us how long you felt this way. That it's time we went back to some bare-knuckle fighting.
Well, sure, I can do that. Let's see now. I guess it was about the time when they started running us out of places. You know, like all them foreign countries and have gone over to the communists now. Well, hey, Mr. Preston, how are you? Look, I'd like you to meet some friends
Well,
of
I
mine.
know who they all are. Ladies and gentlemen, and Miss Brennan, I think this press conference is over. Now.
My lawyer's only worry is that I talk too much.
Don't worry, Mr. Preston. Everything Earl said here makes good sense.
Oh, yes? To whom, Miss Brennan?
Good night. Earl, I'll call you.
Oh, thank you, ma'am. I'll see you later, then. Good night. Bye-bye.
Your name will be known in politics. That's half the battle.
Well, my middle name's Harmon. It's Earl Harmon Chafee. Okay, see y'all.
Earl, you and I have got to have a talk. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought we decided that you were not gonna talk to reporters.
They're such a real fine bunch, Mr. Preston. You know, I never thought I'd be looked up this much by anybody.
Yes, they're a real fine bunch, all right, Earl, and they're gonna slap you on the back all the way to the electric chair.
Oh, shoot, I must be dumb or something, but I don't see how all them nice things people are saying about me can do me dirty. Well, Miss Brennan tells me that's people walking up and down, marching with signs, telling the law to turn me loose.
All right, but that's not where you're tried. Now, listen to me. I don't care how many people there are with signs, Earl. I don't care what kind of a hero they think you are. You've got to be tried in a court of law. Don't you understand that? Well, Earl, it's not a popularity contest.
I see that, Mr. Preston, but that don't alter the fact that there's an awful lot of good folks out there who want to hear what I got to say. And the way I look at it, I got me a duty to tell them.
But after you're free, tell them after you're free. And, Earl, please, until then, keep your mouth shut. If you don't, that nice friendly bunch of yours is gonna kill you.
Oh, Mr. Preston. Now, I understand you've got my best interest at heart. But it seems to me the thing you don't understand is that I got other people to think about now besides myself. If it was only me, wouldn't be nothing to it. Well, there wouldn't be no question. I'd do exactly as you say, but I got me an obligation now. There's people out there all over this country. That's right. All over this world who's looking to have me give them a few ideas on how to get out of this mess this old country of ours is in. Now, it wouldn't hardly be right for me to be thinking about myself when there's all those other people out there who maybe could benefit by what I gotta say. Now, there just ain't no way that could be right now, is there?
Did he say anything about knowing Gamboa?
No.
Did he change his story in any respect?
No, he didn't change it.
Well, then that's all that matters. I still believe in Chafee's innocence. Also, I've read some excerpts from foreign editorials. In effect, they put this country on notice. They're waiting to see if Ramon Gamboa's killer is punished. If we acquit Chafee, they're going to say our laws only protect the native-born, the Orthodox majority, and so on.
In other words, if we win, we play right into the hands of the Yankee go-home crowd. Well, I suppose from the point of view of that FBI man, Malloy, it makes better sense, too. Better a conviction than a smell of whitewash.
I don't care how it smells to Malloy or anybody else. We're going to win this case. The issue at law has been clear from the beginning. Did Chafee kill in self-defense or didn't he? But since Gamboa turned out to be a communist, every Tom, Dick, and Harry thinks he has a right to make it something else. Well, I'm fed up. We're going to win this case, if only to show the newspapers that the law and politics don't mix. And maybe someday they'll learn to keep out of it.
I want that woman removed from
ladies and gentlemen, that I very much regret what I might, without exaggeration, call the circus atmosphere that has been allowed to surround this trial. There's nothing to do with our purpose here, and I trust you will all disregard it. What, in fact, is our purpose here? It is nothing more or less than to determine whether Earl Harmon Chafee took the life of Ramon Gamboa, alias Jose Garcia, in contravention of the laws of this state.
I don't approve any more than the district attorney does of the pressures that have been brought to bear by certain people, individuals, groups, who have nothing whatever to do with the ordered processes of justice. To listen to them, to pay attention to them, would be to introduce, at this stage of our social development, entirely new standards of guilt and innocence.
And it's about time, buddy.
Have that man removed.
Let's get it to him. Just a minute. Just a minute. Let's get it to him.
Now, if this continues, I'll have to ask you all to leave. Mr. Preston.
If one man tragically, and as we will prove to you, unavoidably caused the death of another man, these people about whom we are speaking now, these people would have us inquire into the character of the decedent to determine whether he was a good man or a bad man. And if he was a bad man, they would have us pay homage, offer up tribute to the man who so thoughtfully removed him from our presence. Now, clearly this is a dangerous doctrine, and nobody knows it more than the accused. Earl Chafee has never asked for homage or tribute. What he does ask is that you hear the circumstances surrounding the death of Ramon Gamboa, alias Jose Garcia, and that you ask yourselves a simple question. If those same circumstances, that same nightmarish chain of events, were to happen to me, would I, indeed could I, assuming I value my life, would I, could I, have acted other than Earl Chafee did? Now, if you're honest with yourselves, the answer will be no.
All I know is his name was Jose Garcia.
Your Honor, I have a witness who will testify shortly to the effect that Jose Garcia and Ramon Gamboa were one and the same.
Very well, proceed.
While he was at the hotel, did you see him from time to time?
Once in a while, when he came to pay his bill.
Did he ever fight with you about the bill?
No.
Ever see him fight with anybody?
No.
Argue with anybody?
No.
Be insolent or abusive to anybody?
No.
Tell anybody off?
No.
When did he check into the Berwick Hotel?
June 21st.
And what did he say his business was?
He doesn't say, I don't ask.
What about Earl Chafee? When did he check in?
June 20.
Did he tell you what he did for a living?
No.
Thank you.
Just a question about this Gamboa Garcia gentleman. You say you never saw him fight, argue, or be abusive.
That's right.
Did you ever see him be courtly?
What?
Did you ever see him be loving, gracious, kind to old ladies?
Look, I don't see nothing.
In fact, you don't know what sort of man he was, do you?
That's what I said. I don't know nothing.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, I think we should keep him off the stand. Go with what we've got. And gamble with the jury agreeing that the prosecution hasn't proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes? Oh, it's Brennan.
Well, I hope I'm not interrupting. I was just wondering how it looked from your point of view.
At this stage of the game, we're always hopeful. But I must say, you and your colleagues haven't made our job any easier.
Well, that's not our function.
What is your function, Miss Brennan?
To tell the truth.
Oh, you don't really think that Chafee tracked down Gamboa and assassinated him?
I don't know whether he did or not. But I do know that because of what he did, a lot of people are aroused today who were only frustrated before because they felt there wasn't anything they could do.
Because you aroused them. Now, Chafee has a right to be tried for his crime.
Excuse me, I thought that was going on in there.
That's what we're trying to make go on in there. But in arousing people, you acted as though that right didn't exist. You acted as though he had already been found guilty.
All we did was make sure the people understood what Chafee had done.
That's exactly the point. Why didn't you wait until you were sure what he had done?
Oh, please, it was perfectly clear.
Oh, really? Then why bother with the trial at all? Why don't we just let the newspapers tell us who's guilty and who's innocent?
I don't know why you're so excited. Chafee's getting his trial. This has been going on for a long time. People are looking for a way out. They feel the need to act. Chafee showed them what to do, and all the newspapers did was to point out to the public that it was so.
Do you know that's all a brute knows is how to act? After all a man's struggle for the power of reason, you want him to give all that up? Go back to being a brute, is that it?
I think there's more brute in us than you know.
Well, all right, then why pander to it? Man's on the edge of extinction. Either he controls the brute or over he goes. You trying to give him a good push?
Stop worrying about mankind, Mr. Preston. There's a jury of solid citizens out there. If they think Chafee's a brute, they'll stamp him out. Reason will win again.
There's our answer. After all they've read and heard from her sort, the jury is never going to believe that Chafee didn't deliberately kill Gamboa unless he himself convinces them. We've got to put him on the stand.
The testimony you're about to give in the cause on trial, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your full name.
Earl Harmon Chafee.
I think you people are under a misapprehension. This is a courtroom. It is not a legislative assembly. Sit down, Mr. Chafee. Now, the whole theory of a court is that it should be free from popular pressures, passions. Now, you people certainly have every right to make your opinions known, but not here. Opinions have no place in a court. Now, perhaps we can get on with it.
Mr. Chafee, you understand what we're here for, don't you?
Yes, sir, I do.
We're here to find out what events happened on the afternoon of June 28th of this year at the Berwick Hotel. Events which led to the death of Ramon Gamboa. Now, were you involved in those events?
Yes, sir, I sure was.
So because you were involved, you know precisely what happened. You don't have to speculate. You don't have to say this is the way it appears to have happened. You were there, so you can say, I saw it all from start to finish, and this is the way it was. Isn't that so?
Objection to the form of the question.
Sustained. Mr. Preston, I know that you can form a question much more succinctly than that.
Mr. Chafee, would you tell the court and jury, in your own words, exactly what happened on the afternoon of June 28th of this year at the Berwick Hotel?
I'd be proud to. Well, now, I suppose you could say that everything that took place on June 28th really began, maybe a year ago. Now, you all remember what happened back there? Well, I remember it like it was yesterday. This here fella, Fidel Castro, took a hold of old Uncle Sam by the nose and gave him a pretty good pinch.
Mr. Chafee, would you be good enough to confine your account to the events of June 28th of this year?
Well, I'd like to tell it my own way, if that's all right.
Well, I think we must hear him out, Mr. Preston. He is the defendant, and he has a right to be heard.
Well, I guess like everybody else, I figured old Castro had just pinched one too many noses. So I sit back, and I waited for old Uncle Sam to swat him away, you know, like you'd swat away an old horsefly or something. But by golly, he didn't do it. Now, don't ask me why, because I don't know.
Mr. Chafee, I urge you to stick to the point.
This is exactly the point, sir, if you'll just hear me out.
This is your own witness, Mr. Preston. You asked him to tell it in his own words. Go ahead, Mr. Chafee.
Thank you kindly, Your Honor. Well, I guess now, like every other American, I just worried and fretted about having a bunch of these colonists this close to our shores.
Mr. Chafee, would you tell us the number of your room at the Hotel Berwick?
I'm getting to that, sir, if you'll just give me a chance.
But I fail to see the connection between the communist takeover and...
You're wrong, Mr. Preston. Well, I would never had anything to do with that hotel room unless I've been wondering just how long it'd be before we here at home could do something about this here red menace.
Your Honor, may I have a short recess to talk to my client?
Like I told you once, Sid, I don't have nothing to hide, like especially from the law.
Your Honor?
These folks know what I done and why I done it.
Your Honor, may I have that recess?
I object to recess at this time, Your Honor. Mr. Preston is obviously trying to silence his own witness.
That's the truth. And I just can't be silent any longer. I gotta speak up.
We'll wait for this witness to conclude his testimony before recessing, Mr. Preston.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now then, as to waiting instead of doing. Now, I can remember years ago, you know, when everybody was saying, now, we ought to do something about them Japs. Well, they kept on saying it, and nobody done nothing until all of a sudden, the Japs up and done something first.
This has no connection with the events that happened in World War II.
Have a little patience, Mr. Preston.
Please be patient, Mr. Preston.
Now then, while everybody's going on talking about what ought to be done and nobody's doing nothing at all, along come this here communist big shot, this Ramon Gamboa, right down through my own state of Texas. Now, I don't know, but I guess that just tore it wide open for me because him being so close and all. Well, anyways, I got in line right behind him, followed him to New York.
Mr. Chafee, would you tell the jury why you came here from Buffalo, New York, and when?
That is not important, sir. Not unless you let me answer your first question.
You have already answered it to my satisfaction.
Not to mine.
Mr. Preston, we will hear this witness out, and if you continue to interrupt him, I shall hold you in contempt of court.
I sure do appreciate that, Your Honor. Well, then. As I see it, you didn't have any more use for this old boy than I did. Leastwise, that's what you say. And to hear you tell it, none of you are over mournful on account of him being gone. But as I understand it, I'm up here because none of you out there want to have any truck with the fellow what done the dirty work. Well, sir, I'm here to tell you that you are not about to have your dirty work done that cheap. If you go putting a noose around the neck of a man who's not too proud to do it, well, you stand a good chance of not having anybody apply for the job. The way I see it, you're going to need everybody you can get. Because America's in the same position she was in 1944. She's fighting for her life right now the same as she was then. Now, I fought for my country. I did my country's dirty work then. I killed my country's enemy. Now, it so happens that I was wearing a uniform then. But does that mean I shouldn't serve my country just because I take that uniform off? Well, I love my country the same as I did then. I love my flag the same. And I love my people the same. And I'm willing to die the same, to give up my life, if that's what you all want, right here, right now.
Glory, glory, hallelujah.
How long do you think the jury will be out?
I shouldn't think they'll take very long.
Whatever possessed him to say a thing like that?
Well, surely you're not going to try and tell us you're surprised by his testimony.
Well, of course I am. You don't suppose I put him up to it. It was one of the most exciting moments in my life, but I can't take credit for it. I can't imagine what got into him.
I can. Dreams of glory. A ring of applause. The stunning sensation of changing overnight from nobody to somebody. The image of a hero. You did that, Miss Brennan. You and all the rest who worked so hard to turn Earl Chafee into something he was never intended to be. He was just a man who wanted an unknown neighbor to turn down his radio so he could sleep. And now he's about to be convicted of political murder on his own testimony. You did that. You killed him. I hope you find that something to think about.
The defendant will rise and face the jury.
Mr. Foreman, have the members of the jury agreed on a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Will you state the verdict, please?
We find the defendant not guilty.
The jury is dismissed with the thanks of the court.
Well, I sure want to thank you, Mr. Preston. Thank you a whole lot.
What for? We didn't do anything.
Oh, you say what? Oh, you mean that little deal up there? Oh, well, I sure hope you fellas don't take that too much to heart. But anyway, as long as we go to the same place, don't matter how we get there, does it?
Doesn't it?
Of course it don't. And you know, once I got up there and set my hand on the good book, well, I don't know, I just couldn't do it, that's all.
Couldn't do what?
Well, you know, tell it the way we talked about. No, I was sitting up there with old Gloria standing by my side, and nothing between me and my maker, and, well, I just had to own up to it, that's all.
Oh, Earl, come on. You know that's not the way it happened.
Of course, you don't think I'd make up a story like that now, do you? Well, you know why I had to tell you that way the first. How was I to know that you'd understand that? Well, anyway, like I said, thank you.
Mr. Chafee, you're a free man. Don't keep your constituents waiting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I reckon you're right. Well, now, you two take real good care of yourselves now, you hear?
You seem to have your signals crossed at the start of his testimony. Or was that your strategy right from the beginning?
I guess there's more of the brute in us than even I knew.
First, you scare people to death with how the Reds are coming. And then you hand them a savior. Can you blame them for accepting salvation?
You believed he was innocent. All right, you got your verdict.
But at what cost? The rule of law? That's a terrible price to pay.
There goes your patriot, Miss Brennan.